Alright guys, welcome back. We're just doing a little maintenance on the cooling system for the Detroit. So I brought it in here, and I've got 17,000 miles on this coolant, and I'm running a coolant filter. So I'm going to pull that filter today, cut it open and see what it looks like. This engine has 17,000 miles on it since I overhauled it, and the block was cleaned out with caustic soda, so it's back to bare metal. Some of the areas they couldn't get to, you know, so the filter should pick up some of that, but we'll have a look at it and see what it looks like. So I'm running Cat ELC coolant, good high quality coolant, and I brought along some old liners to give you an idea of what happens if you don't maintain your coolant system. So these 3 liners were out of this engine prior to the overhaul, and I'll link a picture below of the block itself that happens to be there. And what it looked like after I pulled the liners. So here's a used liner with a properly maintained coolant system. So there's no scaling or pitting or anything of that sort. So that was well maintained. This liner here, both liners, have about a 1/16 of an inch of scale, so rust and deposits on it. Now that will reduce your cooling capacity by 40%. So the liner can't transfer the heat, and the heat builds up, and this is what happens when you get too much heat. The piston starts to seize, and then when it does that, well, you know the rest. It tears the liner apart, and then the bottom half goes into the crankshaft and causes all sorts of damage. So at the time I didn't document flushing the coolant system, but I spent 15 hours of 15 cleanouts and run-ups, and I really should have just pulled the engine then, but I figured it'd be okay. The coolant or the water cleared up and seemed to be okay, but as you'll see in the picture below, wow, there was a huge amount of rust in that block. You never ever flush it out. So caustic soda was the only way. So there you have it. We got a Wix 2470, and there's no additives in it, and the Cat extended life doesn't require additives until half-life, which is 300,000 miles. So it's a 600,000 mile coolant, and then at half-life you add an additive. We're nowhere near that. We've only got 17,000 miles on it. So we'll head under the truck here and pull the filter off, put the new filter on, and then we'll cut the old filter apart and see how much rust's in it. It's still flowing coolant. I mean, the filter's still getting hot, but I just wanted to switch it out now and see how it looks. So here's the degas bottle. It's got lots of coolant in it, and it's nice and clear, so there's no contamination in that for oil and fuel and whatnot, so that's always good. So we'll crawl underneath here and pull that filter off. All right, there's the coolant filter there. I'll just wipe it off a little bit, and we've got to shut off the coolant to it. There's 2 shut-offs. There's this one here. There's that one. And then the one on the back side here. There we go. So like I said, this is 2 years and 17,000 miles on this filter. These things really get themselves on there. There. Okay, we're just going to take the full filter and drain it into this glass jar here and see what it looks like. Other than contaminants from the outside of the filter, it looks pretty decent. Nice and clean. Minus the floaties. But that's all from the outside. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut this apart. And I don't have one of those filter cutters. Nah, I just use a grinder. Nasty this is. Yeah, she's pretty clean. Yeah, really nice. And then in the bottom, yeah, it's pretty clean. So that's the residue in the bottom. A little bit of scale. Not much for 17,000 miles on a block that was in rough shape and then dipped in caustic soda. I'd say that's really good. Yeah, that's a nice result, and the filter's really clean. So there you go. It's pretty nice, I think. Anyway, happy times for the coolant system. So yeah, we're just gonna fill this filter full of fresh cat ELC, and then put a little bit of antifreeze on the top of that seal and then screw it back on. So I like clean coolant, and there's huge benefits that comes with that. It obviously improves the cooling of the engine. It collects any precipitate that falls out, any particles that are in the coolant. And it keeps the oil cooler, thermostat, and your radiator, your heater core, oil cooler, all that stuff. It keeps it clean. Now, all these Detroits I've taken apart, none of them have ever had a from the engines I've taken apart have ever had coolant filters, and the bottom of the oil cooler is just full of basically rusted scale. Like, it almost looks like somebody dumped a cup of sand in it, and essentially that's all it is. It's just oxidized metal that's collected at the bottom of the oil cooler, and that's nasty stuff. So I've got this full of coolant now, and that I only do that to keep the air out of the coolant system, so I don't get any air in that. So there you go. That's fresh fluid now, and we'll go back under and put that on. Right. So I'm going to use a little bit of engine oil on this. And no, I'm not getting it into the coolant. And then it won't be such a pain the next time. Take it off. There we go. Just a light little bit of lubricant. All right, let's get back under there and put it back on. There. All right, that's nice, brand new filter. And we'll check back in 20,000 miles or so, and I bet there's nothing in it. I could probably leave this filter indefinitely now with the system the way it is, and it would never plug up. But we'll have a peek again in 20,000 miles and see what it looks like. So we'll just fire it up for a minute and check for leaks, and then we're done. guys, there you have it. That's what I do to maintain the old Detroit's coolant system in tip-top shape. I haven't had any issues to speak of since I've cleaned the system out. I did have a water pump leak. Replaced that. There's only one issue I have. I have a 16 psi degas breather cap, and it's a bit too much for the old Detroit, so we'll try to work around that, get something with 7 psi relief on it. But yeah, she's running really good, so thought I'd bring you along for that. And again, thanks a lot for watching, subscribing, and commenting, and we'll catch you on the next video. Take care.